Hey there, bookworms and history buffs! Welcome to our channel! Today we're diving into the past to uncover some of the most bizarre jobs that people used to do. You won't believe some of these. I mean, can you imagine waking up to a stranger tapping on your window with a stick? Or spending your days knee-deep in, well, let's just say it wasn't roses. But hey, a job's a job, right? And back in the day, folks took what they could get. So buckle up because we're about to explore 10 historical jobs that are sure to make you say, wait, they really paid people to do that? Let's go. Alright, imagine this, it's 5 a.m., the sun's barely up, and you need to get to work. But there are no iPhones, no alarm clocks, not even a rooster nearby. What do? Enter the knocker-up. These were the human alarm clocks of their time, equipped with long sticks, pea shooters, or even just their knuckles. They'd roam the streets, rapping on windows to rouse their clients. Can you imagine the accuracy these folks had to have? They needed to know exactly when to wake each household, and they couldn't exactly just hit the snooze button. It was a precise and surprisingly essential profession. It might seem strange to us now, but the knocker-up played a vital role in the pre-industrial world. They were a reminder that even in the good old days, sometimes you needed a little help getting out of bed. Plus, I bet they had some pretty good stories about grumpy clients who didn't appreciate being woken up at the crack of dawn. Okay, let's talk about sanitation, or rather, the lack thereof. Back in the day, cities were, well, let's just say a little less than hygienic. And where there's grime, there are rats. Lots and lots of rats. That's where the rat catcher came in. These brave souls were tasked with, you guessed it, catching rats. And it wasn't just a few mice in the pantry, we're talking hordes of disease-carrying rodents. Armed with traps, terriers, and sometimes just their bare hands, they waged war against the vermin. It was a dirty job and definitely not for the faint of heart. But the rat catcher played a crucial role in public health. They helped prevent the spread of diseases like the plague, which could decimate entire populations. So next time you see a rat and shudder, just be thankful you don't live in a time when someone had to catch it for a living. Alright, this one's a little creepy, but we're going there. Before the ethical sourcing of cadavers, medical schools had a rather, unconventional way of getting bodies for anatomy lessons. Enter the resurrectionists, also known as body snatchers. These folks operated under the cover of darkness, digging up freshly buried corpses to sell to medical schools. It was a gruesome business, and the fear of being snatched after death was very real. People even built elaborate cages around graves to deter these grave robbers. The crazy thing is, while their methods were undeniably shady, resurrectionists actually played a role in advancing medical science. The demand for bodies highlighted the need for ethical solutions, eventually leading to the establishment of more legitimate ways to obtain cadavers. It's a dark chapter in medical history, but it reminds us that progress isn't always pretty, and sometimes it's downright disturbing. Chapter 4. Leech Collector Bloodsuckers for a Good Cause? Alright, this one might make you squirm a bit. Before modern medicine, bloodletting was a common medical practice. And the tool of choice for this procedure? You guessed it, leeches. Leech collectors would wade into marshes and swamps, often using their own legs as bait to attract these blood-sucking creatures. Talk about dedication to the job. It may seem gross to us now, but leeches were believed to cure everything from headaches to fevers. And hey, sometimes they even worked. Though that was probably more about coincidence than actual medical efficacy. Leech collecting was a messy and often thankless job, but for some, it was a way to make a living. Plus, they could always claim they were helping to save lives, even if the methods were a little, shall we say, unorthodox. Chapter 5. Gong Farmer, the Unsung Heroes of Sanitation. Okay, let's talk about a job that makes even cleaning a public restroom seem glamorous. In the days before indoor plumbing, someone had to deal with, well, human waste. That someone was the Gong Farmer. These brave souls were tasked with the unpleasant job of cleaning out privies and cesspits. And if you don't know what a cesspit is, consider yourself lucky. Trust me, you don't want to know. Imagine spending your days knee-deep in, well, you get the picture. It was a dirty, dangerous, and incredibly smelly job. But as disgusting as it was, the work of the Gong Farmer was essential for public health. They helped prevent the spread of disease and made cities a little more livable, or at least a little less smelly. So, next time you use the bathroom, take a moment to appreciate the modern conveniences we often take for granted, and maybe give a silent thank you to the gong farmers of the past. Chapter 6, Sin Eater, taking one for the team, literally. Okay, buckle up for this one because it's a wild ride. In some cultures it was believed that the living could absorb the sins of the dead, and that's where the Sin Eater came in. This job involved, well, eating. But not just any meal. Sin Eaters would consume food that had been placed on or near a corpse, often in exchange for money or a small gift. It was believed that by consuming this food, the Sin Eater was taking on the sins of the deceased, allowing them to enter the afterlife with a clean slate. Talk about a heavy meal. Now, there's no historical evidence to suggest that this job was ever actually common, but the fact that it existed at all speaks volumes about the beliefs and anxieties surrounding death and the afterlife. It's a fascinating example of how cultures grapple with big questions and the lengths people would go to for, well, spiritual peace of mind, I guess. Okay, this one is a little less about, well, bodily fluids and a little more about the life of the mind. Before audiobooks and podcasts, factory workers had a unique way to entertain themselves during long hours. The lector. Lectors were essentially professional readers who would sit in factories and read aloud to the workers. They'd read newspapers, novels, political pamphlets, basically anything to keep the workers engaged and informed. Can you imagine? It's like a live, interactive audiobook. I mean, it probably got a little dry sometimes, especially if the lector was stuck reading like the stock report, but still. This job was more than just entertainment, though. It provided workers, many of whom were illiterate, with access to information and culture. Lectors helped bridge the gap between the educated elite and the working class. Plus, it probably beat the sound of machinery all day, right? Alright, let's face it, who doesn't love a good treasure hunt? But for the mudlarks of London, it wasn't about buried gold or pirate booty. Their treasure was found in the mud and muck of the River Thames. These were the original urban archaeologists, scavenging for anything of value that washed up on the riverbanks. We're talking coins, buttons, pottery shards, anything that could be sold or traded. It was a dirty and often dangerous job, but for those willing to brave the muck, it could be surprisingly lucrative. Plus, you never knew what you might find down there in the depths of the Thames. Today, mudlarking is regulated, but it's still practiced by history enthusiasts and treasure hunters alike. It's a reminder that even in the most unexpected places, there's always something waiting to be discovered. Okay, this one is both strange and kind of sad. In medieval and early modern Europe, it was considered inappropriate to physically punish a prince. So what did they do? They hired a whipping boy, of course. This poor soul was a young boy of noble birth who was raised alongside a prince and subjected to punishment whenever the prince misbehaved. Talk about a raw deal, right? The logic was that by punishing the whipping boy, the prince would feel remorse and learn from his mistakes. Yeah, I'm not sure that always worked out as planned. Whipping boys lived a privileged life in terms of material comfort, but their existence was a constant reminder that they were essentially human punching bags for the royal family. It's a bizarre and unsettling practice that highlights the often absurd logic of royal courts, and the lengths people went to preserve the illusion of power. Alright, last but not least, let's talk about a job that was all about keeping things smelling, well, less bad. Before modern sanitation and air fresheners, royal palaces were, well, let's just say they had a certain to their aroma. Enter the herb strewer. These folks were responsible for masking the, shall we say, odors of court life. They scattered herbs, flowers, and even perfumes throughout palaces to create a more pleasant atmosphere. Imagine being the person who had to tell the king that his court smelled like, well, you know, it was a delicate job to say the least. Herb strewers played a vital role in maintaining the image of the royal court. They helped create an illusion of luxury and refinement, even if the reality was a little less fragrant. It's a reminder that sometimes, history is less about grand battles, and more about the everyday details, even the smelly ones. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this trip through history, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating content. From the streets of London to the depths of the Thames, we've explored some of the most bizarre jobs that people actually did. It's amazing to think about how much the world of work has changed and how some jobs have, well, thankfully disappeared. But hey, who knows? Maybe in a few hundred years, someone will look back at our modern jobs and think, they really paid people to do that. Until then, stay curious, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.